Hey guys, welcome back to the sculpture. I haven't been working on this. It has been a very difficult sculpture because she is squatting, so that means that she has weight on her tippy toes and on her hands and nothing in between. So the only reason I have a kind of like a block where it seems like she's sitting is just to support the body. The torso, of course, is a little bit too thin, and I am currently like working on getting the thicker part of the torso, but I don't want to add too much weight to that top part just yet. So I am using grog clay, and that tends to harden up. But one of the things I'm learning is that I can use grogless clay for, you can say, almost the surface or the skin, and that seems to help with the detail later on. And I can still dig all of this out. It should be fairly easy. I think I might have to make some sort of vent at the bottom. So at this point I am adding the mask to the head, and the head, it's probably the last thing that I would probably do because I don't want weight to kind of stick out too far. And one of the things that tends to happen is that the neck keeps getting smaller and smaller due to the weight because it keeps pushing it down. So I'm eventually going to have to kind of push the neck out a little bit more. But at this point, I'm building the width of the head. I'm adding all the parts. You can see I just rough it. I'm not trying to create any sort of detail, but I am trying to get the proportion right, and I am trying to match the head to the body. And I tend to make things either a little bit too small or too big, so I never get it exactly right. I use my scraping tool that leaves a texture because that helps me visualize the form a little bit more. So the leg, I keep going back and forth to how I want the legs to be. I do have a motif that I plan on doing this sculpture, but at this point I made the lower legs thicker because I needed to support the upper body. So sometimes in this sort of clay, without an armature, you almost have to start from the ground up and work everything up. So at this point, I am doing the breasts, and she is very large, and I think that's what I like this pose, that it's very non-linear. I tend to like models that are athletic. She's definitely more voluptuous, and voluptuous models are very fun to sculpt, but also you have to understand the underlying structure before you start to like sculpt somebody that doesn't seem to have a muscular structure. Everything is there. It's just like a lot more subtle. Even with male models, it's going to be much more difficult when you have a lot of fat to kind of go around. She has a ponytail. Usually I like to give my models a different sort of hair because I don't like contemporary hair. And I was thinking about making this a little bit different. I could sculpt a female face. I don't particularly find this particular model that attractive in the face, so I might change it up. I was thinking about doing something with the face. I don't know what, but if you have an idea, post up in the comments below, and I'd definitely consider it. The last pose that I did in this style, I kind of just gave her a goth sort of look to the hair, which I kind of liked, with the bangs. I like hair to look very sculptural and simple. At this point, I'm just kind of indicating where the mouth is. I don't plan on giving her a smile. And there's a lot of these fat folds everywhere, and they're pretty fun to find. But one of the things I'm finding about this particular company, the reference I'm using is very flat. Postspace does a better job with the reference, I believe. So all of these fat folds, you kind of have to really look hard to find them because the light on the photos are not that good, and The femaleanatomy.com does not provide you with a lot of references. I believe it's only 8 per pose. So at this point, I'm kind of like trying to tuck in the stomach into the legs. There's a lot of things happening here. You can see with the tool, I can push in quite a bit and curve it. And it's just like a very tedious process at this point. The clay keeps getting wet, but you can start to see it materialize from this point of view, what I'm thinking about doing. I don't know what I'll do where she's sitting or if anything at all. I think that might be a surprise for you guys. So at this point, I am just kind of like trying to figure out the proportions. If you think my proportions are off, post up in the comments below. I'm very curious about what you have to say. By the way I have this lit, I have a strong light from the left, which is a kind of a cool light. And then from the right, I have an LED that's a much warmer light. This helps me kind of visualize the structure a little bit more. But I'm still struggling with it. And a lot of it has to do with the, the engineering behind it. Because you have to add the clay up on the top, but if you add too much clay, then it sinks in. So the way to resolve that is to simply let the clay dry, probably overnight, with the bag kind of half out. And that way it dries a little bit overnight and the clay itself becomes the armature. But the downside is that you don't really have the ability of pushing the clay around. You know, that elasticity that water clay has is very unique. You could always get the clay to be that consistency, but because of the grog, it tends to kind of fight you just a little bit. So at this point, the base is something that I'm also struggling. Like, I tend to make the base a little bit too small, so I intend on developing a theme for this sculpture. And that's something that I encourage people to do, is don't just copy something with reference. Try to add your own unique idea to sculptures. So I kind of have an idea, and I think I'll keep it a little bit mysterious for you guys. So if you're interested, come back in a few days and you might see what is going to be developing from here. But I do have an idea. So I am rounding off all the body, and of course, even though she's kind of like on the plus side, you can still see the deltoid, you can still see all the muscles. You just have to really look for it. So they're a little bit more hidden. I am enjoying the challenge of this, but doing a squatting pose just gives you all of these unique little problems. And remember, I don't have an armature inside, so if I had an armature, I would probably be further along than I currently am. I intend on finishing this within the week, hopefully, or in 2 weeks. I've been doing just other things, but I really appreciate you guys watching. If you like the content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.